Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to RPG Horror Stories. I want to thank you guys, just every single one of you, for the bit of support that you are giving me for this series. I really do appreciate it, and I want to say that we might have a shorter video for today because I got Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I'm having a blast streaming it. So I want to go ahead and get this recorded, edited down, and up on YouTube before I go on and stream. You can catch me over on Twitch, so you not see it over there. There's going to be a link in the description. There's also a link to my Discord and to my Twitter. So, that said, on with the post. Why I'll never play a paladin again. I've always been interested in tabletop RPGs since my middle sister tried to run a campaign for my older sister and I. Since then, I was invited to 3 single sessions, but never really got to play. So when a former co-worker asked if I wanted to join a campaign he was running, I was all for it. I finally would get to play D&D properly, and I was stoked. I wish I'd known why he invited me at the time. He strongly recommended I play a paladin for ambiguous reasons. I gave it some thought and chose to play a cleric instead. I was going into a group of longtime players, completely green to the game. At very least, I could try and be a helpful new player. I played a half-orc with a heart of gold. At the time, I thought I would have the 5th edition Reckless Endurance, which for me meant I could get up and keep healing the party. Turned out, we were playing 3.5. Fair enough, but the character was rolled up anyways. I gave her a simple backstory. Human mother, kidnapped by orcs for gross reasons. The DM's insistence. She managed to escape. Had my character. Gross. Then my character's father returned. Slaughtered the village, but left my character alive because he recognized her mother in the group. Even my character was the only half-orc in the village, he was pretty sure who the father was. Thus, she was part of the herd now. To keep it short, I met the group I'd be playing with, and later introduced my husband to them. Hubby was playing a monk who was kicked out of the monastery after he let his impulses get the better of him. He was to redeem himself by traveling the land and making a comprehensive map for the reclusive monks on pilgrimage. We played through a mild orc invasion where I rescued what I thought was an NPC from the camp. I was a half-orc, they let me walk right out, apparently. It later turned out that I rescued the player's DMPC, who happened to be wearing plot armor, hence why I was just able to walk out casually. I figured the plot had to move. The reason I was given made sense at the time. We get through the first area, which basically consisted of meeting in a tavern, then just deciding to go to a thieves guild. There was one player in the group who I will call that rogue. He was all kinds of that guy, but only after a short time. He was part of the Thieves Guild story-wise and a secret prince. Apparently, the Thieves Guild worked for the royal family. There was a coup, and the royal family was dethroned, so the prince was taken into the guild to hide. A number of the guild decided he was going to have a second coup, and turned on the prince. It was all done in a conversation between the NPC and the DMPC. So basically the player was told to shush while the DM talked to himself. The DM sounds like a real fucking Gary Stew. After the roleplay section was over, we were told to go to the dungeon to get a special item for the prince to regain his throne. It should be mentioned that at this time, the DM told everybody my backstory was different. Now, my character was the daughter of an orcish god, who was calling her to be a paladin. This god was a character DM played in an old campaign, who just so happened to overthrow and replace a deity for justice reasons. Wow, creative. Oh man. Way to overwrite your player's fucking agency, you absolute fucking moron. The The DM then gives everybody magic books that basically worked like the time chamber in Dragon Ball Z. You go in, hone your skill for what felt like 3 years ago, and then you come out. Except they only gave you levels in your class, and lo and behold, mine was a paladin book. Fucking called it. I was told that I could choose not to. However, this would leave me as a level 2 cleric and a 5th level party. With a challenge rating to match the majority level, I had to take it. That's when that rogue started to become that guy. The DM as well was starting to mock my husband anytime he did something. I mean, anytime. He tried to break out of jail. Well, that was just stupid. They were going to let us out because they knew the prince was among us. Scout ahead while stealthing, thus making a map for the rest of the party. Why would a cartographer try to make a map? Wait, what? He later decided to play a wizard, and suddenly, every encounter was magic resistant. And why would you use environmental spells to affect the battle? Out of game, the DM was constantly hitting on himself and the other woman at the table. The other gal didn't mind, but I did. Greatly. This probably explained why he was acting this way towards my husband. He really targeted me a lot for it. That rogue proceeded to fall harder on being that guy as this was happening. It wasn't just hubby though. I was mocked for trying to play my character as a cleric over a paladin. DM would just outright tell me to just be a paladin. Finally frustrated, I had my character exit the party and just rolled a pure paladin. Oh no, you gave in to this desired. Oh fuck. You're a new player. I can't fault you. I tried to give him the backstory of searching for his uncle to reconcile. The daughter had fallen to be neutral evil, and he was trying to save her and bring her back around. The dungeon master hated that idea and told me my character would have to either kill or disown his daughter because she was evil now. He also basically hijacked my character so I'd be forced to initiate combat, even if I wanted to prepare ahead of time or avoid an encounter because we weren't ready for it yet. Thus, I'd be forced to start the fight and finish it. I don't know if this suspicion is true, so I won't say for sure, but it felt like he'd fudged the numbers so that I got the last hit every single time. My paladin was his pet project, his little delight, his character. I was just an accessory. Finally, out of the game, that rogue came to visit my place. He asked hubby and I if we noticed how the DM was acting. We did. That rogue softly cursed and finally told me why DM wanted a paladin so bad. He wanted to change the alignment of the whole party. As opposed to banning evil characters, he just forced it by adding a paladin. When that rogue saw what DM did with the books, he had enough. He vowed to be the worst player DM had ever seen. He also was not happy with how often the DM was flirting with me, despite me being married. He then asked me if I was comfortable with a little plan he had. He was going to corrupt my paladin. He and another player were conspiring to do this, but wanted my permission first. I told them, go ahead. And I'd come back as the paladin's daughter, looking to avenge her father. Turns out, we didn't have to. The DM never hosted any of the games at his house. No. It was at that rogue's house. That rogue had a roommate who DM butted heads with a lot, who would schedule games during that rogue's shifts that he couldn't play, as well as trying to override house rules the roommate had made. These were not unreasonable rules either. It was something like, use an ashtray, open the window while you smoke, reasonable requests. He overstepped big time at one point and suddenly, D&D was cancelled. Since then, I haven't really found a good group for my husband and I. It was because of the negative experience that I just feel gross at the idea of playing a paladin. But not all bad came from it. I decided to sit down and start working on a campaign, all my own. I'm waiting for a third plan. I'm taking up the mantle of the Dungeon Master, with the promise to be better. I'm working on scheduling a game for my hubby and his co-workers. Listen, OP, I'm very happy to see that you are still playing Dungeons & Dragons and that you still love the game, and that you're even picking up the mantle of Dungeon Master. I love seeing new Dungeon Masters. Dungeon Masters always have some really cool and wacky ideas when they first start out, and it's always really cool to see what they think up, and it's also cool to see what sort of style that each of them adopts. Now, I don't want to say much, but please, do not let this sour your experience of being a paladin. Basically, this person, this dungeon master, was that guy in this situation, not the rogue. The rogue was actually the best fucking person here. This dungeon master, what they did was they specifically looked for a new player. He had a character that he had already made, and he was using this character to force the party to act the way that he wanted them to, because he wanted to basically just run cutscenes, which you'll know basically within your first session that this is not how to play Dungeons & Dragons. And this is ultimately what ended up ruining the entirety of the group, not just him being that guy and smoking inside of, the rogue's apartment and shit. Another tip I want to say that I have for you is to just never try to force your players to play a character. You should plan around your players. Your players should not have to plan around you. If your players have a bunch of lightning spells, you want to have both monsters that are weak to lightning and monsters that are resistant to lightning. You want to have monsters that each member of the party is good at taking out, so that you're having a balanced encounter, and so that everyone feels fucking amazing. This DM did not do that. This DM, what they did was they looked for a brand new player that they can take advantage of. They can force to take over a character that they had already made, force to play a class that character did not want to play, and force that person to play basically a cutscene that was not your character. So don't let it don't let the experience ruin it. That was not your character to begin with. It never was. You basically weren't even in this session aside from watching, because this was a cutscene. This is not a game of Dungeons & Dragons. And I heavily applaud the rogue, because while it might seem like they were playing that guy after a short while, what's actually going on here is that the rogue saw what the DM was doing, saw that the DM was forcing you to do things that you were uncomfortable with, saw that the DM was hitting on you and actively trying to cause conflict within your own relationship with your husband by constantly belittling him, constantly berating him. And the rogue was doing his best to shut that shit down by being that guy and being the absolute fucking worst person on the planet to that DM. Because, there's things that, there's ways to take care of things, but I think that the rogue did things the best way that they could. This is probably the best outcome that the rogue could have hoped for. I hope that you end up playing with, quote-unquote, that rogue. However, I do hope that you later update to calling him this guy or this rogue, because this guy has absolute this guy energy. Much love, stay sexy, and I hope that you have an amazing campaign, OP. And now to give us a slightly lighter note, well, more macabre, but still lighter note, we have the horse guy of the dead horses. So I've had a game going for a few years now, and I had a friend introduce me to a stranger who loves apocalypse stories. I go to add him. I make it very clear. Players can make their own characters and backstory anything they want. They can bullshit me a good or fun reason. So I give him this information and ask about his character. He replies, "Oh, I'm a horse." I replied, "Like a mutant horse?" "No, one that has a human body but horse hair, but like full body fur." "Oh, is he from a special place that made him a horse?" "No, he was born a horse from a tribe of horse people." Okay, what's the horse tribe?" "The dead horse tribe." "You're a horse from a tribe of horses named the Dead Horses. Yeah. I immediately told him no and said he needed to give me a good reason before he throws some sort of persona into the game. He got mad and asked if he could simply convert my universe to furry. I replied to no and figured the fight was over, but I was wrong. He threw a temper tantrum and messaged the other players of the Discord server and tried to rally for them to all switch to Anthro so they can all push me to make it furry. He got a unanimous no from all of my players, and he then decided to make an exact replica of my campaign world, except furries. Nobody would join, and quickly his post fell into the void of our group's message history. I debated on posting it since it's a pretty specific story and he's a nice guy, but this was awful. He's a running gag in all my social circuits, and it's become an insult if players are lazy about their characters or backgrounds, that they will just say it's a horse guy of Dead Horses. So I'm not gonna bullshit you on this story. Absolutely, this DM is in the correctness for shutting this shit down, but I'm not gonna lie, I think this could make a great satire character. To have a horse guy necromancer, have a centaur necromancer named Horse Guy who summons dead horses, hence the horse guy of the Dead Horses. So, you effectively just have Necromancer BoJack Horseman in Dungeons and Dragons, and it would make a great fucking joke character. But listen, the DM here is in the correct. What sort of fucking moron takes the rules of, yeah, no, you can be whatever fucking race you want, you can homebrew it, as well as, put in some random bullshit, as long as you can bullshit me a good fucking reason. Some fucking lore. Did this player bullshit lore? No, they didn't even try. That's why this story exists. The player didn't fucking try. That's the horror story here. There's no effort for the character, and ultimately, the player would probably have been asked because they didn't put any love into the character. So, good on you, OP. Good on you. I gotta love seeing people stand up to their local neckbeards. Now, that's all I have for today. Much love, stay sexy, and I'll see you guys on Twitch later. Bye-bye!